Thanks for being here, everybody here. My name is Judy Walgren, and I'm the chair of the photography program here at Foothill College. And the talk today is in honor of LGBTQ plus History Month here at Foothill College. Every month we have a different affinity group that we celebrate through our History and Heritage Month. And we really want to thank the ASFC, the Associated Students of Foothill College, for sponsoring these months throughout the academic year. And so for this month, we are so fortunate to have this incredible human, Cristal, who her website is Cristal Veronica. And I'm going to read a bio that I think from what I've been able to discern is aptly perfect for them. So Cristal loves photography. It has allowed them to connect with others in such a profound way, and their goal is to capture moments as they become memories as a way to honor the past, present, and future. Cristal is passionate about getting to know the real you, sharing stories of friendship, strength, grief, and love of people with histories that are rarely told but need to be told, specifically LGBTQ plus identified folks and the BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, people just like them. Let me let this other person in. And in our class that I'm sitting in right now, Cristal, we were just talking about how they just gave their business presentation pitches, and they were talking about how they wanted to be welcoming and inclusive and to celebrate the people who they're photographing, which I'm just so thankful that it dovetailed today with your talk, because I really feel like you are very much in the same space, especially after looking at your website. So with that, I'll hand it to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me and for asking me to come. It's even more exciting for me to be here because, as Judy mentioned, I do work at SF State and am an alumni of SF State. I live in San Francisco, and higher education is a big part of who I am. So I am excited to be here. I wish I could see your faces, but am excited for maybe seeing your faces later in the Q&A part. Let me just start with this slide. And I'm going to try my best to share or talk a little bit about the photos here that I share on the slides as well. Unless there are photos of me, all of these photos are photos that I've made over my photography career. And let's see. I guess I can just start there.
Yeah, that
Oh,
sounds
one
good.
more thing. I'm also getting over a cold, so I'm sorry if I'm sounding a little congested. I do have my water here, but just bear with me. So, hi, thank you again for being here today. I'm excited to share my story with you, how I found my creative voice through photography, and how that's deeply rooted in identity, representation, and community. And these images that I'm sharing here, two of them are engagement sessions, the two on the left, and the one on the right is actually, is it the same? Yeah, you're seeing the same version I am. The one on the right is a wedding day. And yeah, they were all taken here in the Bay Area. Okay, going
Woo,
on to the next
you're
one.
lucky to be here. Let's just say that.
Okay, so who am I? Who's Cristal? I have she, her pronouns, so I should start by saying that. I'm biracial, I'm Mexican and white. I was raised by a big, loving Mexican family where Spanish was spoken often on my mom's side. I'm the eldest of three with two younger sisters who have helped shape my sense of responsibility and care. For the past 22 years, I've worked in higher education, as I mentioned previously, a field that reflects my deep commitment to growth, equity, and community. Higher education is my day job, while photography is my weekend gig. I hold a bachelor's degree in American Multicultural Studies and a master's degree in Women's Studies. These degrees don't just live on my resume, They're a reflection of the values I bring into every space. I'm also queer and have been married for almost 11 years. My wife and I have been together for nearly 17 years, building a life rooted in love, resilience, and authenticity. And yes, that photo in the middle is a picture of our wedding day at SF City Hall, which is, I think, an incredibly beautiful building and a place where I love taking wedding photos. And yes, that's also Gavin Newsom. But that is a story for a different day.
That might be worth a lot of money shortly. You
I
never
know.
know.
8 years ago, I lost my mom to breast cancer. That grief has become a huge part of me. Her absence continues to shape how I show up in the world and in my everyday work. Today, I'm part of a beautifully diverse family that mirrors the richness of all of these experiences. Each of these identities, cultural, personal, academic, and emotional, matters. They are not separate from my work. Rather, they inform my work and give it meaning. I bring my whole self with me to every space I'm a part of, my career, my art, and my business. About 15 years ago, I bought my first digital camera off of Amazon. I had no idea what I was going to buy. I just kind of like searched and bought the first thing I found. Didn't know how to use manual anything on a camera, although I did buy a DSLR, if you know what that is. At that time, I was just looking for a creative outlet, something to spark joy and curiosity outside of my day-to-day life. I had no idea what that seemingly small decision would lead to. I definitely couldn't have imagined that picking up a camera would lead me down an entirely new path. I never set out to start a business, and I certainly didn't picture myself becoming an entrepreneur. But here I am. Somewhere along the way, that creative outlet became a calling. And now I have the incredible privilege of being the person trusted to capture some of the most important moments in people's lives. It's humbling, transformative, and deeply meaningful work to me. There's this widespread belief that your wedding isn't supposed to be the best day of your life, and is supposed to be, sorry, the best of your day of your life. And while it can absolutely be beautiful and joyful, that idea always felt limiting to me, as if everything else is somehow less meaningful. On top of that, the wedding industry has traditionally centered around very heteronormative expectations. For a long time, I didn't see myself, my identity, my love, my values reflected in the imagery or the narratives that weddings portrayed. Not to mention the fact that at the time I began this business, gay marriage wasn't even legal. And I
Mm.
wasn't even sure I'd ever be able to get married. And let's not forget the wedding price tag. The moment something is labeled wedding, the cost seems to skyrocket. It often feels like we're being sold a fantasy instead of being encouraged to create a day that's real, grounded, and authentic to us. Too often, the focus shifts toward the wedding day instead of the marriage. But to me, the most important part isn't the flowers or the cake, it's the commitment to build a life alongside someone else. Over time, I've found ways to reclaim what weddings mean to me, not as a performance, but as a celebration of love, commitment, and community, in whatever form that takes. In 2011, a friend of my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, reached out. She had seen some of my photography on Facebook and asked if I would consider photographing her small queer wedding in Lake Tahoe. This is Lara and Jenny Lynn. Oh, I'm tripping over my words. This is Lara and Jenny Lynn, and these are photos I actually made during their wedding day. These might be the only 3 wedding photos that I actually like of their day. I can look back at my beginning work and sometimes it makes me cringe, but it's also a good way to see growth in all of the work that I've done over the last, 12 plus years. So that's amazing. Lara and Jenny Lynn hadn't planned on hiring a photographer at all. I was honestly shocked to hear that. At that point, I was mostly photographing flowers and sharing those photos on Facebook because that's what you did back then. I wasn't photographing people, and I certainly had no experience with weddings. I felt way out of my comfort zone. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that if they weren't planning to hire a professional photographer, then anything that I could offer, no matter how good or how bad it was, would be better than having no images at all. So even though I was hesitant, I made the crazy decision to say yes. And honestly, when you think back about all the things that all the instances that make you grow, it's always those moments of not being sure and being outside of your comfort zone. So I'm really glad that I did that. And really, I loved it. I loved every part of the day. I loved every part of the actual wedding weekend. That experience changed everything in me. I wanted more of it, more real love stories, more moments of joy, more connection and community. I found myself drawn to the rawness and the authenticity of it all, being a witness to real life, real love, real emotion, lit something inside me. And from that day on, I just knew I wanted more of it, more moments like that. Saying yes to that one wedding opened the door to a whole new chapter for me, and honestly, I've never looked back. After Lara and Jenny Lynn's wedding, I knew I wanted to learn more. I wanted to grow, not just as a photographer, but as someone who could truly honor and capture life's most meaningful moments. So I began seeking out opportunities to deepen my skills. I attended events, signed up for workshops, and immersed myself in the world of wedding photography. Along the way, I met a group of women who, like me, were just starting out in their wedding photography journeys. That group quickly became my support system and lifeline, if I'm being honest. We shared everything: our gear recommendations, contract templates, posing ideas, pricing strategies. Nothing was off limits. There was no competition, just collaboration. And that kind of openness was powerful. It gave me the confidence and the tools I needed to keep moving forward in this field. Even now, all these years later, a lot of those women are still some of my closest friends. What we built was more than just a network. It was a real community grounded in trust, generosity, and a whole lot of shared growth. That kind of support and openness still sticks with me and really shapes how I show up in my work today. It's a reminder that we don't grow alone, we grow together. That group of women not only gave me support and guidance, they also opened doors for me. Through those connections, I had the chance to serve as a second photographer at several weddings. It was an incredible opportunity to learn, to practice, and to continue growing by working alongside them in real time. But not every experience was easy. At one wedding, where I was second shooting, things took an unexpected turn. The main photographer was photographing the bride and her bridesmaids in a huge, beautiful bridal suite filled with beautiful light. And I was assigned to photograph the groom and the groomsmen in a small, dark hotel room, probably in the back. It was obviously less than ideal, but I was just happy to be there practicing my art. I was already uncomfortable being in a room full of men in various states of getting dressed when their sports ball talk turned to gay jokes.
Oh, Cristal, can I ask a quick question? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Are you moving forward in your slides, or are we still on Laura and
Oh, I am, but I'm not there yet.
Oh, sorry. I just was okay. I'm sorry. I had
No,
that.
that's okay. Okay. So I honestly didn't know what to do. It wasn't my wedding, and I didn't want to disrupt the day or make it about me. So I stayed quiet. I kept my head down and focused on the job, but inside I didn't feel safe. Later on the drive home, I shared the experience with the main photographer, who was upset that I had gone through all of that. Carrying that silence felt heavier than speaking up. That day taught me something important, not just about the power of being included, but also about what it feels like to be excluded, to feel invisible, to feel unsafe in a space that I was invited into. I realized that creating safe, affirming spaces is a non-negotiable for me, both in front of and behind the camera. This is a photo of Sandro and Raphael on their wedding day in SF City Hall. And honestly, I was so happy to see that artwork that was hanging in City Hall that day. And obviously, I had to take a photo of them in front of it. Um, this was an honor of a wedding because they hired me specifically because of my Mexican background. They are both Latino men. And I was the only other witness outside of their one friend who's there to sign their wedding certificate. So it felt very special. That moment in the dark hotel room with the groom and the groomsmen was pivotal for me. It became clear that if I wanted to make meaningful art, art that was honest, vulnerable, and real, I had to feel safe doing it. So I made the decision to build a business that centers safety, not just for me, but for the people I photograph. That started with being unapologetically clear about who I am on my website and social media. I made it clear that as a proud queer Chicana, I wanted to work with and serve my own communities, the LGBTQIA+ and BIPOC communities. These communities that are often overlooked in the wedding industry, these are communities that are often overlooked in the wedding industry. Our stories of love, our joy are often left out of the spotlight, are only highlighted during Pride Month. I wanted to change that. I wanted people to visit my website and see themselves reflected. I wanted them to know without a doubt that they are worthy of celebration too. And perhaps the best part about running my own business, my very own business, is that I get to make the rules. I get to shape the culture. I get to create the kind of spaces I always wished existed, where people can be fully themselves and where their love is not only seen, but deeply honored.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's great.
So these photos are of two different weddings. The ones on the outside are weddings, and the one in the middle is a maternity shoot, and all are members of the LGBTQIA community. The two on the left are actually really close friends of mine, and they also were not going to ask to have a photographer at their wedding, and of course I convinced them otherwise, and I'm so glad that I did. So at the heart of everything I do, my art, my business, my daily life, is a simple but profound belief that representation matters. Photographs are more than just images. They are proof of our existence. They say, I was here. I mattered. We unfortunately don't know how much time we have on this earth, and photos will live long after we're gone. They'll serve as memories for our loved ones. As an artist, I don't just want to take pretty pictures. I want my work to serve a larger purpose. I want it to serve my people, my communities. I want to highlight the lives, the love, the families, and the stories that are so often left out of the mainstream narrative. I want to see others whose lives are like mine. And just as importantly, I want them to see that I see them, that their lives, their histories, their joy and pain all matter. Back in 2003, I made the conscious decision to move to San Francisco, a city that reflects my values, a place where diversity is woven into daily life. I wanted to be in spaces where I could be surrounded by people like me, where I didn't have to explain myself to be understood. That's what I carry into my work today. I want every person I work with to feel and to know that I believe their lives, our lives, are important. This is my why. This is what grounds me, guides me, and keeps me committed to telling real, beautiful stories through my photography. So these are pictures actually of my own family. The kids in those photos are my sister's kids, and they're actually much bigger now. So these are older. That one on the bottom left of my nephew, Lorenzo, was in front of a mural that popped up during the pandemic, probably during the time of the George Floyd, of all that was going on with George Floyd and his murder. And the middle photo is of my mom, and don't know who took it. Maybe my dad, but I definitely just love the rawness and the film vibe of this photo. And then, of course, one of my best girlfriends, one of the ones that was there at the beginning of my photography career, took that picture on the top of my whole entire family. Obviously, my mom is no longer here, so she's not in it. But yeah, that was an annual photo that we had a few years back now.
Great.
So above all else, it's important for me to say this. I do this work for my ancestors. For those who came before me, who never had the luxury of safe, affirming spaces, who had to hide parts of themselves to survive, who didn't get to see their love, their culture, their identities honored or celebrated. I carry them with me every time I have a camera in my hand, and every wedding day I get to photograph. I do this work for future generations, for my nieces and nephews, so they can grow up seeing people who show up fully in all of their identities and are loved and seen. I want them to know that their authenticity is their strength. I do this work to expand the narrative, to show true representations of what it means to be part of the LGBTQIA plus and BIPOC communities. I see this as legacy work, and it's a huge privilege to be a small part of people's lives. So this is a photo I actually took, I think also in the pandemic on my iPhone in Sacramento when I was going to a farmer's market. And honestly, it struck me as really pretty. So I had to constantly taking photos with my phone. I'm sure all of you do. Um, because of my lived experiences and my own family history, I've developed a set of core values that guide who I am, not just as a photographer, but as a human being. These values are clearly and unapologetically posted on my website because they matter deeply to me. Black lives matter. Love is love. No human is illegal. Stop AAPI hate. Gender is a construct. Everyone is deserving of love and belonging. I don't just list these beliefs for sake of appearance. I share them because they reflect my heart and they serve a purpose. I want people to know exactly who I am and what I stand for. These values help attract the right clients, people who resonate with this vision and hold these same beliefs. I try to live out loud in my business. I'm not Target or Walmart, like none of those big stores. I'm not Amazon. I'm not trying to appeal to everyone. I'm an artist, and as an artist, I'm not here to photograph just anyone. I'm here to highlight the stories on the margins, the stories of people in the communities I belong to. I want to work with people who see this work as a mutual connection, not just a transaction. Yes, my clients hire me because they love my work, but they also hire me because they trust me, because we connect on something deeper, shared beliefs, values, and lived experiences. When I'm clear about who I am, I attract the right people. And just as importantly, I repel the wrong ones. And that's the goal. This is a photo of a couple who actually I photographed them the day after their wedding. They traveled here from Los Angeles to get married. One of them was being stationed elsewhere in another country. So they were going off into the military life and they wanted to get married before that change took place. And so they really wanted to work with me. One of them does consider themselves queer, even though this doesn't look like a queer couple or a typically outside, outwardly queer couple, I should say. They really wanted to work with me and I wasn't available on their wedding day. So I was lucky enough to photograph them the day after their wedding. And we met right outside of the De Young Museum and had a blast, honestly. I believe that photography is more than just capturing a beautiful image. It's about vulnerability. And vulnerability begins with connection. When I work with clients, my first goal is to build trust. I do that by showing up as my full, honest self as much as I can. I create a space where they feel safe and welcome to do the same. It's in that mutual openness where the magic happens. Nearly everyone who hires me falls into one or more of these communities: LGBTQIA, BIPOC, multilingual individuals, or those who embrace body positivity. Getting to hold space and capture people's stories and all their beautiful diversity is a huge privilege, and that means a lot to me. When I connect to folks with shared identities and they're able to show up fully as their whole self, I'm able to create more genuine, honest images. My goal is always to make images that show humans as they are in this present moment. Whenever I get my own photo made, I'm always drawn to the images that feel like the real me, the ones where my eyes are squinting because I'm laughing so hard, not the fake smile, the ones that honestly show the love I share with my wife and my family. I'm always hoping to make photos that aren't just pretty, but are also real. So these photos, one is a wedding, the one on the left, and the other two are engagement photos. And um, the one on the left is actually taken in Fremont, I think. They had this really big, beautiful wedding. And honestly, I was so honored that they wanted me to photograph their wedding because they have a very large community, a very diverse community, and their whole wedding was just a way for them to celebrate all of the people that were in their lives that supported them along their way. And so, gosh, being a part of that celebration and in that room that day meant a lot to me. The other two also really enjoyed working with them. The one in the middle also meant a lot. They are a couple that live in LA, and their wedding was actually in Philadelphia, and they paid for me to go and visit both locations so they could photograph their engagement in their home in LA, and so that I could photograph their wedding where their family lives in Philadelphia area. And honestly, any photo with a dog is something that I can get behind because I'm also a lover of dogs. And I'm also a lover of photographing people in their own home spaces because I really feel like it allows you to be who you really are and it shows the real you. The real you is able to come out. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you all for
Yay.
listening. And it really means a lot again for me to be here and to share my story with you. So
God, man,
hope that this
you're,
has resonated with you, and I'd love to open it up for any questions that you might have.
that was amazing. And I'm a photojournalist, so my background is, and I got into it for the same reason, but not wedding photography, right? Just
Mhm.
so I love hearing your story. Let me turn off my background and let me turn this around so you can see the room. And we'll hang on, video effects, virtual backgrounds. I want to have none. There we go.
Mm.
There you are. Da 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 done. It's still kind of blurred though. That's your class.
I see the waves though.
They're there, so it's not fake. Um, let's ask some questions. So why don't y'all start thinking? I've got one burning in my soul since I'm your teacher today. I'm gonna ask it first. And then if you want to come up, just come up and ask your question. I'm gonna turn around this way. Uh-oh, sorry, I just pulled out the thingy here. It'll come back. It'll come back. There we go. Okay, now it's coming back. How, first of all, I'm so inspired and it makes me want to photograph weddings because, like, I stopped doing weddings probably because I did the wedding like you described, where you were targeted, and it was a really traumatic experience for me. So I stopped. Um, how did you come up with your logos, both the heart and also your initials? They are
Yeah.
magnificent.
That's actually a great question. So, I I probably got this logo maybe it feels like a couple years ago. It's been a little longer. I feel like since the pandemic, like time doesn't mean anything to me. So it was toward the end of the pandemic, whenever that was. And I had a friend that has a company. Their company is named Flight Design Co. They actually do branding for creatives, and I luckily won one of their giveaways. I mean, I didn't have much money to put toward branding. So up until that point, I had been kind of winging it on my own. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was just showing them your logos. I'm on your website,
Oh,
so
excuse me. So I, yeah, had been winging it up until that point and doing my own thing. But luckily they had done like they every so often do like a lottery and gives them a chance to work with creatives that maybe not have the funding to get branding done. So yeah, I was able to work with them. They gave me three options. They looked at my work. We did a lot of Q&A. They had me answer a lot of questions. It felt like deeply personal work because they were asking me some hard questions about not just my work, but like myself and who I am in the world. And so um, when they took all that information and created three different options for me to choose, it's funny because I was leaning in one way and it was like a more minimalist design. And then I was sharing this with my family and they were like, oh, well, there's clearly only one answer here. And I was like, really? Like, which one is it? And they were like, well, which one do you think it is? And I thought for sure they were going to pick the one that I picked. And everybody was like, no, like it's obviously this other one, the one with the heart, the
oh
anatomical
yeah.
heart and the flowers. And after marinating on it for a minute, it was interesting because the answer like was so clear to me that this like I wanted to stand out. Like I don't my work is not meant to be in the background or like on the sidelines and this branding really felt more authentic to who I am and very much a departure from all the other photography websites that I had seen. And what's even crazier about this whole thing is that so I'm really into tattoos, I have a lot. Is that this logo actually is something that I already had essentially tattooed on my body. And so it's crazy that my family were like, you don't see this? Like you already have this on your. So I don't know if you can see this, but like I have an anatomical heart and there's a bunch of
Oh,
flowers here
ouch.
and it has my parents' names written on it. And this
Oh,
is a tattoo I got much longer before they had even done my branding. So like it's crazy. Think about it now. I'm like, obviously there was only one answer, but yeah.
but the other one's really nice too, right? The letters,
Mhm.
but it's definitely more conservative. And I love I love Loteria, right? So I'm
Yep.
getting
Mhm.
Serena here
Yep.
on
Yep.
this upper arm. And so I immediately thought of Loteria when I saw it, and not knowing your identities or your ethnicity. I didn't know that you came from a Latin background. I had no idea, but I felt that kind of
Mhm.
affinity just by seeing your logo.
Yeah. Yeah. A
Really
lot
cool.
of the, work beforehand, they had me create mood boards, which definitely included the Loteria artwork as well. So,
They're the
yeah.
best. My gosh. Um, questions. Come on up. Come on up, Vivian.
Looks like there's a question in the chat too.
Okay, we're gonna get it. We'll come to you, Andy. We'll get you next.
Hi. My name is Vivian. I'm planning on transferring to San Francisco State, so I just wanted to ask, where, like, what you do higher education wise as a professor, and then if you started that first before photography, or how that like translates for you, I guess.
That's a great question.
That is a great question. I am not a professor. I
Okay.
don't teach anything. I work in administration and finance, which is probably like the back end of the things that schools have to do in the back end that don't necessarily um, feel like they are, right there with the students. I moved to the city for grad school and I got into grad school at SF State. So I got my women's studies master's degree at SF State. And when I was getting my master's, I actually was working at the downtown campus for SF State. And it was just like I was doing conference center sales assistant work. And it was perfect. It worked with my school schedule and allowed me to take classes in the afternoon, evenings. And I was also working on the campus. So it also felt like very supportive when it came to like putting my college career first. So by the time I graduated with my master's degree, I just kind of stayed. I never left. I had moved around into a ton of different positions. I did work for housing for a number of years. I worked in student life, or not student life, student affairs, I should say. And I worked with the vice president and dean of students. So I did a
Wow.
lot of work that were more closely focused on the students' lives outside of the classroom. And then a few years ago, I moved over to the administration and finance side, which basically means I work for the vice president and CFO of the college. And I
Way out
do
there.
essentially chief of staff work, although it's not labeled that, but definitely took me, what, 22 years
Yeah, I was gonna
to
ask.
move all the way up to where I'm at now. And what's interesting about this question too, that I'd also like to share is that I've actually, although I don't seek speaking opportunities, although I'm here with you today. It's definitely not something that I feel like I'm great at. Like speaking is always like very uncomfortable for me in front of people. And when I've been able to speak in front of other photography groups and communities in the past, um, I've usually left out the fact that I am a full-time or have a full-time job at SF State. I focus solely on the photography aspect of, I mean, that's why they've asked me to come and talk.
Right.
And what I've realized that is that in the outside spaces, when we're having lunch, when we're hanging out after the conference, when we're just being humans together, that information comes up. They like get to know me and who I am. And a lot of them get surprised. They're like, oh my God, you've got a full-time job too. Like, I didn't know that that was okay. And it seemed as if it was more of like if you're being a real artist, you know, a real photographer, this is something you would do full time only. And so I'm glad that you asked me that because it's really important for me to now share that yes, I do have another job. I have essentially two jobs. One that's a lot more creative than the other, in my opinion. But it's also for me important for me to share that because I do think that there's no wrong way to be an artist.
Mm-hmm. God, that was great. That was a great question. Sorry, you got a follow up? Yeah, this is good. This is Vivian. Here, sit down in this chair.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that was, yeah, great response. And I feel like having multiple jobs or like diversifying income is a really big part of being an artist in general. And I've been talking with my friends about what that looks like for everybody individually. So I think that's super important. And then in tandem, I think I was going to ask, like, how did you eventually build your network out? And it sounds
Yeah.
like being at the school possibly, but also seeking out specific groups is kind of what I heard at the beginning, especially. But yeah, I feel like the wedding and getting your name out there in the first place, was there anything specific that you did or how long
Yeah.
did it take? Yeah, that's my other
Yeah, the
question.
group of women that I met and got really close to at the beginning of my photography journey was really pivotal. There were probably 10 to 15 of us. And I mean, at the time we were on a Facebook, you know, group together. And what's cool about it is that we were on it like all the time. Like anytime someone had an emergency or a question, it was like we were all quick to answer and respond. And also to lift each other up and also to give each other opportunities. So it was never like, oh, this is the way I'm doing my business. I'm not going to share. It was
Right.
always about this is what I found. Look at this cool thing. Like you need to know this too. Or these are the resources that I found. Like maybe,
Totally.
and there's also other things like Creative Live was big back in the day, which was a online platform that had a bunch of photography like webinars, I guess you could say. And so I watched a lot of those. A lot of them are free if you watch them live. Or you could buy them and watch them later, keep them in your like library. But in terms of getting my name out there, what's funny is that I have always said that I'm not like good at marketing. I'm not like the business stuff is not as fun for me. Obviously, I'm an artist. Um, but you know, there must have been something I did back in the day when I did, I don't know, some sort of a class on SEO and, you know, put the right words in my website to get noticed. But I definitely have a lot of like LGBTQIA, queer, like Latino, like all of that information is and diversity, like those are all over
Mhm.
my website. And I think that when people, families, couples are looking for a photographer in that community, they're Googling, you know, like queer wedding
Keywords.
photographer.
Yeah.
And I'm luckily one of the ones that come up. And to be honest, I mean, it's sad to say, but like there aren't that many of us. And
Point.
there should be more. But I think that like even on Instagram, like I only have one Instagram. That's not true for a lot of photographers or artists. Usually there's like a personal and then like a work one for their artwork. And I've always just stuck with one because one is already too much in my opinion. Um, but I try to put information about me or share information about me on like social media. So like if I'm at a Valkyries game, my wife has tickets, like I'm gonna post about that. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll learn that I basically love dogs and only want to talk about dogs. It's nothing to do with my photography, but like it shows more about who I am. And also you can see like my family, my wife, like all the diverse spaces I'm in, and hopefully that resonates with people who are looking for someone who is like that.
Yeah. Awesome. I think
Thank
big takeaway
you.
from you is just show up authentically and really put
Yes.
it out there. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Vivian. Okay, next question. When you first started your photography journey 15 years ago, how did you learn the wedding photography industry? Did you work for someone beforehand or did you just dive right in?
None of that. I just dove right in. As I mentioned in my presentation, yeah, like I never once thought I was ever gonna photograph a wedding. Like that was not ever something that would have populated in my brain anywhere. But literally, my wife's friend just happened to reach out and was like, "Hey, your girlfriend seems to take really good photos. Like, would she mind photographing our wedding?" And I was like, "Is she crazy? Like, I literally only take photos of flowers. Like, I don't, not even people. Like, I don't get it." I obviously threw myself into as much knowledge that I could learn as possible. So whether that was, you know, the friends that I was making, the people in the photography industry, like the networking, asking questions, not being afraid to ask questions. Um, that Creative Live webinar platform was really pivotal too because people were just on there like showing like what they do and how they do it and offering free information. And so whenever there's a space for you to get free information, I mean, don't hesitate, like, you know, jump right in. Um, all that to say, it wasn't easy, right? Looking back, it feels funny to me that I ever would have started calling myself a wedding photographer or having a website like with the limited knowledge that I had back then. It feels like I should have done the steps. I should have maybe gone to school for photography, gotten a photography degree, studied with someone, um, helped someone, you know, a specific wedding photographer in their wedding photography work. Like it seems like those would have been the logical steps. And I was talking to a friend recently who's interested in getting into photography herself. And I think that she's trying to go through these steps. Like she's got a clear path. Like I'm gonna, you know, talk to people that I know that are in the photography industry, ask questions, um, get ideas, and then make a path for me. And I think she was really surprised when I told her, like, I just jumped right in. And
Mm.
honestly, like, especially in artistic work, I don't know that there is a right or a wrong way. I don't, I think that you're constantly learning. Like the photographer I am today, is vastly different from the photographer I was 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I think that every time I go out and photograph anyone, it's an experience that I'm having that adds to my photography knowledge. So everything I do, talking to you today is an example of like everything I do is just going to add to my knowledge. And I don't know that I was, if I had done the path, I don't know that I would have ever felt ready. Like maybe it's I'm not a parent, but like maybe people who are parents feel the same way. Like, are you ever ready to have a kid? Like, what makes you ready? You know, you just kind of have to leap sometimes and hope that you know, you'll be caught along the way, and chances are you're probably gonna do okay. You'll be surprised at what you can do when you jump out in a space that feels like you're, you know, needing courage.
It's great. That's wonderful advice. Fantastic. Who else? Who's got a question? Come on up, Janelle. Get you that chair. Nice and warm chair for you.
Hello, I'm Janelle. I just wanted to ask, since you have two jobs, do you find it difficult to like balance both of them? And then there's a follow-up to that, but
Go.
yeah, but also like since you have the two jobs, do you find it easier that you can like find more enjoyment in your photography because you have your other job that like provides for you financially?
I'm going to restate it real
Oh.
quick. This is a great question. So it was about work-life balance, right? How do you balance two pretty much intense jobs? And then does having the full-time job offer you to have more joy, less pressure on you? Is that what you're
Yeah,
meaning with
yeah.
the photography?
Great question. Yes, absolutely. So, yes, it's hard, and yes, it creates more joy in my art. So, it's interesting. Well, the cool thing about having two jobs is that, I mean, we all know how expensive it is to live in the Bay Area. We all know that really well. Um, it's not easy to be here. And also, such a privilege to be, in my opinion, it's such a privilege to be able to be in this space because I don't know, California is just amazing. I mean, I'm born and raised here and I love it, but I come from Sacramento. And just the fact that I'm able to live in a space that is so expensive and that I'm able to do it alongside my wife, like, is a privilege. And it's one that I don't take for granted, or I try not to take for granted. Um, Having a daytime job affords me the ability to pay rent on time. It affords me healthcare, which we all know is like gold at this point. I mean, obviously, I believe that universal healthcare should be, you know, something that our country has, but it doesn't yet. Um, I'm hopeful, but it isn't yet. But these are things that I'm afforded because I have a full-time day job, one that's stable, stable income, stable health care, all of that. It also allows me to not have to say yes to every single photography request that comes my way. And I'm grateful for that because while there have only been a few inquiries that have come that definitely do not feel like a connection or a match for me, it allows me to continue to prioritize that. As I mentioned in my presentation, connection is huge. When I find or when I'm working with someone who I connect with, it allows me to make the best art, the best photos that I can because I'm able to be present. I'm able to be who I am with these people. It also allows them to get images that feel more like them because hopefully if they're connected to me or feel connected to me, they can show up as themselves. And it's very vulnerable. It's hard to say. Very vulnerable to be in front of someone's camera. I'm sure if any of you have taken or had your photo taken, it's scary. It's like, what do I do with my hands? Like, do I smile? Do I look at you? What am I supposed to do? How do I show up that feels like in a way that feels like me? But if you have someone that you feel comfortable with, you kind of are able to let all that down and show up as yourself. So, um, there have been a couple of people before I say yes to photographing anyone, I always meet with them in advance. Nowadays by Zoom, back in the day, pre-pandemic, it used to be at a coffee shop or at a bar, just to talk and just to get to know each other and just to feel like to get a sense as to whether or not there is a vibe, a connection here. And usually after those like what 45 minutes or so, it's clear that like either we're vibing and we want to hang out and do more of this, or it's just like, or if a couple shows up and they're just like going down the list of like, what do you photograph with? Like, what's your gear like? Do you have a contract? Do you know this? Do you know like that feels very like, okay, you're not looking for me. You're actually looking for just any photographer that can photograph your wedding. And that's not important to me. And I also know that that's not going to allow me to do like the work that I want to do. So by having a job, a day job, I'm able to kind of just take the inquiries that come my way when it comes to photography and just um, work with the people who I feel much more connected to. And also, it becomes a little more of like supplemental income versus like something that like I feel like I have to hustle for just to, make ends meet, just to pay for, food, rent, healthcare, that.
Thank you.
Really great.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Janelle. Let's see, we've got about 5 minutes left. Another question? Another question? Come on up. Julian. Come on.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Julian, and I had a question kind of about how you stated earlier that you moved from Sacramento to San Francisco, and I'm guessing it was like a bit of a change for you. And I'm kind of asking, how did you kind of navigate that situation? How did you adapt to San Francisco? What challenges did you overcome? And looking back to it now, like what did you learn from moving to San Francisco?
Mm.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like I remember growing up in living in Sacramento, it was easy for us to take like my family to take like day trips to the city. It's so close.
Yeah.
And so I remember I have very visual memories of like going with my mom and my aunts to like Macy's and like Union Square and just like hang out and like I don't know, the changing rooms while they're like trying things on. It's a good memory. That's why I'm sharing it. That's the only reason why. But yeah, when I was a kid, I remember thinking like, who would want to live in the city? Like there's so many people, there's too much going on. Like I couldn't imagine not having like a yard or things like that, like place to play. In my head, I was like, my parents have this huge backyard. We have a lot of places to play, and where do kids play here? Like, didn't make sense to me. And then as I grew up, so I got my bachelor's from Cal State Monterey Bay, moved back home to Sac, worked at the California State Capitol for a couple of years and moved back in with my parents, which was fine because I got along great with my parents, luckily. And then I was kind of like, I'm getting kind of older, kind of want to move out on my own. Like living the college life is kind of fun. Maybe I should go back to college and maybe I can move to the city. Um, I kind of went out on a whim. I was like, well, I kind of want to get a master's degree, but let's just see if I can get it. So I applied to SF State. It's the only place I applied to, got in, luckily, and used a good chunk of my financial aid to allow me to live here. I started off living in a small studio, which was fine. And then moved in with, roommates to save some money eventually. Back then, I did it all on my own. Like I didn't, when I moved to Cal State Monterey Bay, I did it with a friend. And so that we both had gone to the college at the same time. So I had someone with me to keep me comfortable, to feel safe. This time it was just me. and was definitely nervous about the move. Luckily, my women's studies department was a pretty small and close-knit group, and we all got to know each other pretty well. And I was so deep in school that a lot of my outside connections were with my women's studies colleagues. So I was lucky to create a community environment there, which allowed me to um, really kind of explore the city. There were people that were already living in the Bay Area and were familiar with the city and were able to like show me around and take me to places that they knew. And that made it easy for me to transition from, not having to from being in a city that I knew no one to knowing some people, knowing people that were familiar with the area and could take me to show me places that they knew and loved. But I mean, it was definitely a growth experience for me. Thinking back again, it's like one of those things where it's like sometimes you just have to go on, hope or, courage, knowing that this may or may not work. And again, that is also a privilege of mine because if something didn't work out, like my parents weren't going to say, no, you can't move back, you know? Luckily, I had them as a fallback in Sacramento. I mean, at any time, if I was like, I'm done with this, they would have been like, okay, move back, we'll figure it out, no big deal. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Great question,
you.
Julian. We've got a number of students who are thinking about San Francisco State. So that was great. We've got one more question. If you can
Yeah.
give us another couple minutes.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
Nadia, thanks for the question. What do you like to take pictures of when you're just making pictures for fun and you're not
Oh,
working?
yeah.
That's a great one.
That is a great, I love traveling. And so my wife and I travel as much as we can. And um, honestly, I love taking photos with my iPhone. Like I know that like to some photographers, they're like, wait, how do you do like you're not taking a photo with like your big camera? And um, yeah, just seeing new places. Like I love spending time with my dog. I love coffee. I love San Francisco and I love traveling.
Well, there you go.
So in my like personal work, like it's a lot of iPhoneography. It's a lot of dogs, it's a lot of coffee, it's a lot of food, travel, just seeing new places is honestly the thing that brings me probably the most joy. And then of course, people. So like hanging out with friends or family. Um, Pretty much if I love you, I want to take your photo.
Oh, that's great.
So
Do you go to Fort Funston a lot?
it's been a while since I've
Yeah,
been
me
actually,
too.
but
I need to go.
it's a great location, especially for the
Yeah.
dogs.
I know. I had a Bernese mountain dog who died a year ago next month, and I miss her so
Oh,
much. But she used to love Fort Funston so much. Well, thank you for your time. This was
yeah. Thanks for having
fabulous.
me.
Yeah.